Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Shaksurum Militanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayan Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakambitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavanishware Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedhaika Satphala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnadhya Sarva Lokaika Drikprada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths. You are the only giver of light to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad-Bhagavata Prabhu Khalidvanto Ditaditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master, Srimad-Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Shri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You're Sri Krishna himself. Madeka Bando Matsangin Madguro Mam Mahadana Manishtaraka Madhvagya Madananda Namostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadu sadhu tadhayim atini chochatakara hana muncha kadachimam premna ritkanta yospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalted of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Kantara Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. So let's do a little recap from what we have discussed so far. Just focus maybe on chapter 2. You can type on the chat box any points that particularly are relevant from this chapter, or any sections or anything that you remember that really impacted you in any way? Let's hear, or you can chat right on the chat box. You can also unmute yourself. Let's have some engagement from the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. We will be doing this every day at the beginning of each class, particularly after on the Saturday. So because we're going to be together for quite a few more weeks. So just get ready.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Janamashmi Krishna speaking.
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhuji, I learned about the 3 features of Absolute.
Okay.
The 3 aspects that you talked in the Canto 1, Chapter 2, verse 11.
Okay.
And that was about the Brahman, they realized by the Jnana, Sat feature, Paramatma, the realization by Yoga, the Chit feature, and Bhagwan, the realization by Bhakti, the Ananda feature. I really liked that.
Nice.
Element, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for that. Someone else? Okay, I'll read. Meanwhile, I'll read from the chat box, but everyone should contribute something. Then I know this also says for me as a reference that we are learning. Because you notice we're moving kind of at a good pace so that we don't rush through the whole thing and then what was that all about? So these kind of recap sessions are important so that, you know, it gives us some frame of reference, some context so that we can move forward. Lila Manohar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. The devotional service can be done by anyone, anytime, anywhere, even from the womb stage, womb to tomb, anywhere. We can do devotional service. It is the simplest process and it is the highest process. Pure bhakti.
Nice. And you know the Sanskrit for this?
I'm not able to write.
What verse? What verse are we referring to here?
2nd chapter, I think 9th verse.
No, 6th verse.
Okay.
So, well, 9th verse, I mean, they are all, you know, expanding on the same point, but it's a haituki apratihata. It's without any cause and it's without any interruption. Nothing can hinder it, you know? Apratihata. Okay, someone else? I'll just, okay, here it is. Prema Manjari Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna. I would also refer to the same verse. Savaikum Samparodharma, Yato Bhaktira Dokshaje, Ahaitukya Pratihata Yayatma Suprasidati, and especially the last line, Yayatma Suprasidati, which means that this devotional service can completely satisfy the self. So this is something that is extremely important for me personally, and also when trying to share this with others, because every one of us is looking for complete satisfaction. And we can only get this complete satisfaction if our devotional service is not motivated, is not mixed. So it is worth endeavoring for this.
Wonderful. This is the essence. This is the essence of what we preach, actually. This is the essence of what the Bhagavatam is teaching. It's trying to bring us to that platform of pure bhakti. There is no motivation save and except to please the Lord. And Krishna is very merciful, and sometimes he gives us some glimpses of this, you know, higher taste, a higher pleasure. And when we taste that, we know there is nothing, there is no other experience in the material world that can compare to it. And we become hooked. And that's the end. That's the you know, that's the end of our material life. But of course, now we have to work for it also. And we are going to be given so many, you know, challenges and tests to see if actually my service is ahaituki and apratihata. That's all is happening. All the challenges we're facing in life, they're just, help us to develop that mood that I will serve you, Krishna. You treat me, you trample me, you embrace me, whatever you do, I'm your unconditional servant, And in that effort, we become very satisfied. Thank you. Murali Govinda Prabhu, we missed you last week, didn't we? I think we missed you on Sunday, didn't we?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
That was
Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
really sad. I was really sad. Okay,
I'm extremely sorry, Prabhu. Prabhuji, I liked that first chapter.
No. First chapter,
eight-
no. Second chapter, sir. Okay?
Sorry, second chapter I was not there. That's why
Okay,
I
so
cannot.
now you can hear the recap
Okay.
from the devotees.
Okay.
For your pleasure. Shama Bhakti Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. We also discussed how Srimad-Bhagavatam is the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra. I am a book distributor, and I was always using this line, Srimad-Bhagavatam is the commentary on Vedanta Sutra, but I did not know how it is a commentary on Vedanta Sutra, but you quite clarified it by telling all the sutras which are there in Vedanta Sutra and how Srimad-Bhagavatam is expanding upon all those sutras. So, for example, Janmadasya Yata, how it explains Brahman, Krishna is the source of creation, maintenance, and you explain different
Good.
other sutras like.
Good. Nice. Shama Bhakti, where do you distribute books?
Prabhu, I live in Maryland, Baltimore area, North America.
Yeah.
So in that area.
Nice. Where do you go? To the door to door, or you go to the shopping malls? What do you do?
Yeah, we go everywhere. Prabhu. And especially during Bhadra Purnima, we give, because of the pandemic, we were giving presentation over the Zoom. So, almost 100% I use this line. Bhagavatam is the commentary on Vedanta Sutra, but I did not know the meaning. But it was very helpful.
Nice. Very wonderful. I'm happy to hear this.
Prabhuji,
Yes, Murli Govinda Prabhu.
even though I was not there in the class last Sunday,
Okay.
but many times this wonderful sloka is recited everywhere, even in the lectures and all. Even our Guru Maharaj also used this verse very frequently in his lectures. Savai pumsam paro dharma.
Good. Thank you.
So-
Ramananda Krishna Prabhu.
So,
Hare Krishna with last time we also discussed, like you asked one question, like why bhakti is the topmost. So different devotees give different
very good.
answers.
Nice.
So this
Give us one reason. Give us one reason.
Yes, Guruji. So in the last class only I got the reason why bhakti is the topmost. Like before that I never realized why bhakti is the
Good.
topmost.
But give us one reason. One strong reason.
Yes, Guruji. Yes, Guruji. So like bhakti is the only way by which Krishna can be attained. Without
Okay.
bhakti,
Good.
there's no.
That's good enough. That's most important. Thank you. Srinarayan Prabhu.
I think he also covered. I mean, I want to cover the same point, but I will just convey the other point where you brought out very nicely in the word congenial. Every individual has got the congenial or intimacy
Nice.
part. I think that part was very important. I think that made very important,
Yeah.
how the Vrajavasis point.
Nice.
And
Very
then
good.
also this.
Yeah.
This Tushti, Pushti, and Shuddhya, like from the 11th canto, you brought the analogy from Bhagavatam's Jiva Goswami's.
Nice.
That was also very nice.
Good. Okay. So now we can continue today. Now that we continue with the same theme. Basically, Sutta Goswami has been answering the questions of the sages of Naimisharanya, and he is expanding and elaborating on these points. We left it at verse 12, I believe. Today we begin with verse 13. Is that correct? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, 12, we
Yeah.
have completed 12.
We completed 12, okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Actually, sorry, I should have read some of these points from the chat box, and I'm going to read them quickly. One should follow Bhagavad Gita, hearing and chanting. Well, Kolokeshwari said that, but actually, the verse where we study that, it says that one should not only do that. It says we should do two things. Not just Bhagavad Gita. You remember? Prabhupada uses the analogy like a parallel, like a train moves on parallel lines, that like the railway lines. And one side is Bhagavad Gita and the other one is Pancharatrika Gita. So it's hearing and chanting and service. Okay, Patita Tanana Jagannath. The purpose of Dharma is to develop Krishna consciousness. Very nice. These are simple points, but so important, so essential, and so fundamental. We have a hole in the heart that only God can fill up. Exactly. Radharaman, the purpose of Varnashram is to please the Lord. We're coming to that right now in this verse. Ananda Vardhana, we can derive the higher satisfaction only by reading and hearing this transcendental literature. Okay, 13th verse. Shama Priya Somya. All the knowledge and detachment are the goals of other processes. It can be automatically gained by bhakti. Very nice. Vansidar Vishal. By performing bhakti, the topmost activity, everyone will become satisfied. Yes. Rupa Goswami, verse number 6 of chapter 2 is very much related to verse number 1 of chapter 1. Answering the first questions by the sages. And it is the essence of the Vedanta Sutra. I don't know how, I don't know how you're making that connection. Obviously, it's all connected to verse number 1, but how it is connected? Tell us. Rupa Goswami Prabhu. This is a good answer for this question. I'm throwing that question to everybody. Verse 6 is Chabai Pumsam Paro Dharmo, and verse 1 is obviously Yamadya Syayataha. So, you know, how they connect them. Rupa Goswami. You muted, I think, still.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu.
The first verse, it is the essence of Vedanta Sutra. What is we discussed last time, that in Vedanta Sutra, Tato Brahma Jigyasa, this is there in the first verse. And this sloka, second chapter, text number 6, it says about the first question. I first put that this is answer to the first question and what one should do. Paro Dharma is to perform devotional service unto the Supreme Lord. And then I think very much we discussed about how all the many verses of the Vedanta Sutra are related to this sloka.
Yeah, but the thing is that, you know, the verse 6 is actually answering the first question, which is what is the absolute and ultimate good, you know, what is, you know, also what is the essence of all scriptures. But now, if we have actually grasped the meaning of the first verse, that you're saying Yamadya Syayataha, that means that, you know, Krishna, we are all part and parcels of Krishna. Okay, so our duty, this is the answer to the question I made, okay? Our duty, dharma, the dharma of anything is the essence of something, right? We discussed that the essence of sugar is its sweetness, the essence of fire is heat and light. So the essence of the soul is very much determined by what we are made from and what we are made for. So we are part and parcel of Krishna, and we are meant for his pleasure. Because Yamadya Syayataha, we are all, you know, expansions in one say, we're his energy. And the energy is meant for serving the source. Okay, that's the connection.
So the sages are questioning the first inquiry. First question was that whom should we worship? Like, so
No, the first question is, what is the ultimate and absolute good for all the people?
good for all.
Tatra tatra jasanjusmam bhagavan jat vinishchitam pumsa ekantata shreyas tamna samsitung harasi. So what is the absolute and ultimate good for all the people? Yeah, so that's determined by who we are and what we're made for, which is explained already in the first verse. All right? Clear?
Then
yeah.
The sages are questioning so about what is the ultimate goal. So the performing the devotional service, and that is to whom, that is explained in the first verse, like Janmadhya Sejata.
Okay. Yeah, that's also good. A good point. Yeah, for sure. The absolute truth is being established in the first verse. Nice. Very good. That's a good point. Thank you. Okay, reading Srila Prabhupada's books is a must with utmost necessity for charging and nourishing the soul. Very nice. Okay, so we're moving ahead now. I'm sharing again. 1 second. Where is it? Okay, so now we have the verses are coming. So verse 12 was how to realize the absolute truth. And verse 13, according to Sridhar Swami, the original commentator on the Srimad-Bhagavatam, explain what is the true effect of religion. Verse 14, how should I act? Okay, so we're going to stay there. Okay, so verse 13. Atapumbir dujasreshta varnashrama vibhagasa sanustitasya dharmasya samsidir haritoshanam. Always among the twice born, it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection one can achieve by discharging the duties prescribed for one's own occupation according to caste divisions and orders of life is to please the personality of Godhead. So the perfection of Varnashram Dharma is being described here. And what is the perfection? The perfection of Varnashram Dharma is that everything, basically, the ultimate objective for our duties is to please the Lord. That's actually the true effect of religion is that that the Lord may become pleased by my actions. And when this objective is clearly made and is clearly observed, then society functions very nicely. All the ashrams, all the varnas, they are working together as a part of a machine. As social, you could say the social body is this varnashram system. But this social body works very nicely when the aim is to please the personality of Godhead. The moment that the aim becomes selfishly motivated or the satisfaction of the senses, then society becomes very dysfunctional. Ultimately, the Brahmanas, they must abide by the instructions of the Lord. When the Brahmins are obeying the instructions of the Lord, that's the first thing. Then the Kshatriyas, they must follow the Brahmanas, they must follow the instructions and the guidance, be guided by the Brahmanas. And then the Vaishyas must also abide by the instructions and the rules imposed by the Kshatriyas. And the Sudras must be satisfied by the salary and the remuneration given by the Vaishyas. And everybody is satisfied acting according to their own natures with the aim of pleasing the personality of Godhead. So it is therefore concluded that the highest perfection, the ultimate goal, and this is what we should, we talk about ultimate success. So what is the ultimate success? May the Lord be pleased by my actions. That's That's the Bhagavatam message. Some people may not be pleased by my actions. You cannot please all the people all the time. You can please some people some of the time. But, you know, our aim is to please the Lord. Obviously, pleasing the Lord means pleasing the devotees. But this is our, you know, like an internal compass. An internal compass is that my activities should please the Lord. Even though it may be difficult, it may be unpleasant to me, that's my goal. So these purposes are very, very beautiful. And in some of the lines, Prabhupada is using like italics, you know. This was the first canto, you know, that this is his own thing. And so I'll read the italics because it must be important when he's, you know, like using a different type of font. So, and each and every one of the above mentioned divisions of life, the aim must be to please the supreme authority of the personality of Godhead. Okay, so we can move to the next text, text 14. Tasmadike namanasa bhagavan sadvatam pati shrotavya kirtitaivascha dheya pudyascha nityada. So how should I act? How should I act in this Varnashram scene? How should I act in a way that is going to please the Lord? Here is the answer. With one pointed attention, therefore, with one pointed attention, one should constantly hear about, glorify, remember, and worship the personality of Godhead, who is the protector of the devotees. So hearing, chanting, remembering, worshiping the Supreme Lord. This is the way that we feel our lives. And Prabhupada in the purport explains that, you know, this tendency to hear about someone, to speak about someone, to glorify someone, you know, this is like built in the living entity. Everybody has that tendency. But unfortunately, that tendency is misused at the present time. And we are hearing about, you know, cricket players, Bollywood actors, politicians. We are also glorifying them. We are, you know, remembering them. And the result of that is that we are imbibing their qualities. We're not becoming satisfied because these people themselves, they're not satisfied. So you cannot be satisfied by worshiping someone who is very limited, like in the case of these personalities. And so Prabhupada explains that if we just, all we need to do is just to change the topic. You know, at the beginning of the chapter, we were talking about Munaya Sadhu Pristoham Bhava Vriv Lokamangalam Yat Krita Krishna Samprasno Yanat Masu Prasidati. So that's Sutta Goswami is saying that your questions are very good. And why they're good? They're good because they relate to Krishna, and therefore they will benefit the society. They are Lokamangalam. They will bring auspiciousness. So the idea is that what is being presented here already by Sutta Goswami, and this is going to be a constant. Believe me, this is just, you can say, like the essence of everything we're going to hear in the Bhagavatam is this. This is actually the instruction. We must constantly hear about, glorify, and remember the personality of God, who is the protector of the devotees. We're going to hear so many different pastimes. And every pastime concludes that this is their ultimate goal, that we must absorb ourselves in hearing. So it is about changing the topic. We are already absorbing our minds in so many, you know, in Gramya Katha, in thinking about what that person said, what that person is doing, or that person have. envy, you know, it's like it's going on all over the world. People are, you know, are watching this, you know, like I forgot what they call, but these like soap operas, right? And it's all just about, you know, people's life and intrigues, and so just change the topic. And therefore, Bhagavatam has come for that purpose. How we can do this by absorbing our minds and hearing about Srimad-Bhagavatam. And you are getting the experience now, because we are, you know, giving very like pointed attention to this. Tasmad ekena manasa. Therefore, with one pointed attention, tasmad ekena manasa. So when we do this, someone wrote there, Vaibhava sayat pikabudir, ekaha karunandana. Yeah, this is the thing. That when we give that single point where our attention goes, that our energy, our very soul goes there. So the way by which we connect with the Supreme Lord, the way by which we connect with the spiritual nature is through sound vibration. So it's our prime duty to give attention to transcendental sound vibration daily through hearing. I mean, it's mentioned glorifying worship. We do the deity worship. We hear lectures. We read the scriptures. We memorize slokas. We go to the temple. We fix our minds on the artik, on the glorification of the Lord. We pay obeisances. This is it. This is how we should act. It's just so simple, right? But with one single pointed attention. It means that it's not just about engaging externally in the activity, but it means also that we are focusing our minds on doing this. What is that verse in the first chapter, in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? First verse. Amen. How does it begin? Maya sakta manapartha. Same. Maya sakta manapartha. Now hear about me with mind attached to me. Now hear how you can know me in full. Asansaya samagraman. You know, free from doubt, you will know me, but with mind attached to me. Maya sakta manapartha. Yoga yugya mad ashraya. Asansaya samagraman. Yatagya sasita shrinu. Now here. So this is the actual goal of what we're doing. We want to develop that desire that we can fix our minds in doing this. So what's preventing us from doing that? What's preventing us from being single-pointed, you know, in our hearing and chanting? It's a good question, right? So here it is. How now? Just imagine how quickly we will make spiritual advancement if we were able to practice with one pointed attention all our activities in devotional service. So what is the difficulty? What is the difficulty? Why we cannot do it? Come on. You can open your hearts here. Let's see what are some of the challenges. Past conditioning. Okay, but that's very broad. Means what? What is an example of past conditioning? Nanda Vardhana Prabhu, you raise your hand. Come on, tell us.
The internal attachments which are dragging me here.
Yeah, internal attachments, right? Okay.
Yes.
Sri Narayan, unable to control the senses. Rupa Goswami, subtle and gross material desires. Yeah, Murali Govinda Prabhu, raise your hand. Come on, tell us.
Not able to control the wavering mind, as explained by Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita.
Yes. Someone else raise the hand. I can't see because I have the PowerPoint. I cannot see someone else raise the hand. Please unmute yourself and say. I saw someone else there, but I don't know who that is. Or maybe I didn't. There was someone else? No? Okay. So, but again, all these things are very like broad in one sense, but how do they manifest? What is standing on the way? Like Lord Chaitanya, he's chanting Durdaiva mi drishamiham janina nudagah. My Lord, although you bestow such mercy upon the fallen souls by liberally teaching your holy names, I am so unfortunate that I commit offenses while chanting the holy name. I therefore I do not achieve attachment for chanting. Yeah, so because we are committing offenses, also, then we lose taste. Problem is we don't have a taste. We don't have a desire for these activities. That's the problem. Is it not? The mind wants to wander here and there, watch YouTube videos, chat, go into Facebook. I mean, right now, there is so much, sources of distraction. I remember before this internet era, like the end of the day will come, and if you will have completed everything, you will just sit down and read. But now we have the phones, we have the computers, we have the emails to answer, it's like Hare Krishna, So it is an obstacle. Okay, so what are some of the causes of misfortune? This is referred to by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Harinam Chintamani, okay? And these are in one sense, well, actually, these are like, he actually explains this in connection to the holy name, how the holy name, we cannot perceive the full effect of the holy name, just like sometimes the sun is covered by mist and is covered by clouds. So similarly, the holy name is also covered by these things. So one of them is what is called the mist of ignorance. It's called Tattva Brahma. It means that we have a philosophical misunderstanding about our identity, about the Lord, and about the process of Krishna consciousness, of the goal of devotional service. So this is basically a lack of, Sambandha Jnana. And that's why I feel that it's just so important that we take time to study, and to learn these things, and again and again and again and again and again. It's always, it's endless. We have to hear this constantly. It's not that you hear it once and that's it. No, we have to hear it again and again. And gradually it sinks in, and we're getting new insights as we're making progress in Krishna consciousness. We're reading the same things, but our perception of those things is changing because we're getting purified. So the other one is aparat. An aparat is a form of, nama aparat, seva aparat, Vaishnava aparat, and Jiva aparat. Okay, so these prevent us from actually experiencing a taste in our devotional practices. Yeah, we could go for a whole seminar into this. I'm just touching upon it, but it's very, very interesting, and we should know what it is. Then we have Asat Trishna, which it means like thirst for the temporary. And this is what you were mentioning now in your comments, still desire for material objects, okay? And then, of course, it goes even beyond that. Most of us here in Kali Yuga, we're not maybe so much affected by these other things, like desiring heavenly comfort, maybe wanting to go to heaven and, mystic powers, impersonal liberation, but even just gross sense gratification in this life. We want to enjoy the material world. We still have some hope that the material world has something to offer. And these prevent us from actually diving deep into Krishna consciousness. It's that we still have one foot on Maya and the other foot, we're trying to jump into Krishna, but it's like, and we're torn apart sometimes, yeah. And Hridaya Daurvalyam, this refers to the weaknesses of heart. And these are things like deceit, fault finding, envy, pratishta. You know, they are there, they're lying in our hearts, and you know, it prevents us from once again hearing properly. Actually, our lives are meant to become pure hearers of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, pure chanters of the holy name. You know, we want to purify our activities in Krishna consciousness. And these are the causes of misfortune. Okay, so next verse. Text 15. Yat anudyasina yukta karma grantini vandanam chindanti kovidastasya konakuryat katartim. With sword in hand, intelligent men cut through the binding knots of reactionary work, karma, by remembering the personality of Godhead. Therefore, who will not pay attention to his message? Now, some of you mentioned in the comments before that previous conditioning, right? Someone mentioned this at the beginning. Yeah, Bansidhar Prabhu said past conditioning. And it is a fact. It is a fact that we have these vasanas, these samskaras that are really deeply imprinted in our hearts. And we are unable to actually overcome them. Sometimes we're overwhelmed by these things, and you know, like it's basically we have a combination of the modes of nature, basically, which is our karma, and then it's pushing us in different directions. Someone may be attracted to different varieties. We have different material desires, different impulses, and the problem nowadays is that people are so mixed up because the influence of Kali Yuga, that, you know, in previous times, and where Varnashram institution was working nicely and people were following religious principles, people were born, you know, pious people, were born in pious families, and they were given like a proper upbringing. Plus, they were nicely, you know, they had good samskaras. But nowadays, people are born just out of, you know, a night out, drinking alcohol, and people are born with mixed. Well, Vana Samkara means that they have like you know, mixed tendencies there, and people are very mentally confused. They cannot. You know, they are confused. They have mixed desires. So then, what to do? We are like this to some extent. Some of us may feel like this, that, you know, we're being pulled in different directions, and sometimes it's like this. You know, like you. I don't know if you probably seen it. Sometimes you have a knot, okay, and then you have on the top of a knot you have another knot, and then another knot. Sometimes it may happen with your sika or with your hair. You get a few knots and you cannot untie it, right? It's just like, you know, you cannot get rid of it. All you can do is to do what? If you want to get rid of it, you got to get the scissors and cut it. You know, you have to cut it. So similarly, these vasanas, these samskaras, these impressions in the mind, they're so deeply rooted for so long, for so many lives, for so many births. We have these impressions in the heart. So how are we going to get rid of them? Sometimes we wonder, how am I going to get rid of this? It's just like, it's so deeply rooted. I have this tendency. Some people have a tendency to steal. Some people have a tendency to cheat. Some people have a tendency to, you know, to all kinds of degraded things. And it's like impressions. Like Prabhupada will tell the story about the man who had the tendency to steal. You remember that story? And they were on parikrama, right? And this guy was in the middle of the night, and and he just couldn't help himself. Everybody's sleeping and all the bags are there. And it was like a feast, you know, and he just couldn't help himself. So he woke up and he just, you know, at the same time he was trying to control this, and he just, what he did, he just moved all the bags around. And then in the morning, everybody was like, "What is my bag? What is my bag?" And he just admitted, you know. But the thing is that for other people, other people didn't have that tendency, but he had that tendency. I had to fight with it. So we similarly, we may have some kind of previous conditioning. We may be harsh speaking with people, or we may be like, you know, then we may have the tendency to focus on the negative, or, you know, so many things that are impediments in Krishna consciousness. So how are we going to solve this? This is what this verse is talking about. How are we going to solve it? So with sword in hand, intelligent man, cut through the binding knots of reactionary world. By doing what? By hearing about the personality of Godhead. So this is the power of hearing and chanting. It cuts through. It removes all these impressions from the heart. It cleanses, finish. It's like the sword. No more, you know, you start to untie one knot, and then you finish untying one knot, and there is another knot, and then there is another knot, and there's another knot, and sometimes you cannot even untie the knot. No, boom, one cut, finish. Now, this is a process of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada uses, I believe in the Nectar of Devotion, that our process is the blacksmith. It's not the gold, the blacksmith's can is just a one kick, boom, finish, you know? Not like tick, 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 tick. No, just one big hum, bang, finish, you know, wake up and come out of this slumber of material existence. So I have a, let's see. So this is a nice quote. Someone can read? Anyone?
I started this movement in New York. You all know I had no actually any sword. Just like in some religious principles, they take the religious scriptures in one hand and another hand sword. You accept the scripture, otherwise I will cut your head. This is another preaching. But I had also sword, but not that kind of sword. This sword to give chance people to hear. That's all.
Nice. This is from lecture on these verses. Okay, so now we are moving into verses 16 to 22, which describe how bhakti works. So this verse is very, very important. And I'm just gonna give you a you know, like a prelude, and then like a you know, introduce you, an overview of what's coming. And then we'll see that we'll study those verses and we'll summarize it again, okay? So already in verse 12, Tasha Dadana Munayo, Jnana Varakya Muktaye, Pasantyat Manichatmanam Bhakti Sruta Grihita Jaya. That was mentioned also already there. The seriously inquisitive student, armed with knowledge and detachment, realizes the absolute truth by remembering the personality of God. Okay, so in that verse, this is according to the commentaries by the acharyas. They explain how these verses describe different stages in bhakti. If you remember in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sunda, there is a very famous verse, Ado Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya. So there are nine stages of bhakti which are illustrated in these verses. So verse 12 refers to Shraddha. The beginning is faith. Then verse 16, which is the verse we're going to read now, is refers to Sadhu Sangha. Then verse 17 refers to Bhajana Kriya. Then 17 also refers to Anartha Nivriti. 18, Nishta. 19, Ruchis, Anashakti. And verse 20, Bhava and Prema. Okay? So here we go. So here we go again. mercy and service to the devotees. Now, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he gives another list in which he lists 14 stages. Okay, if you have this book called Unveiling His Lotus Feet by Burijan Prabhu, which, by the way, I highly recommend it. If you have it, use it. It's a very good resource for Bhakti-Vaibhava course. And yeah, so if you're doing this course, if you can get hold of this book, it will help you. Right? Unveiling His Lotus Feet by Burijan Prabhu. So there he explains these 14 stages. We're not going to focus so much on that. We're going to focus on these 9 stages. Okay, so 16, mercy and service of the devotees. So let's read verse 16. Shushrusho shadadhanasya vasudeva kataruchi syammahat sevaya vipra punyatirtha nishevanat. Otherwise born sages, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So now, as we were discussing in the previous verses, basically everything is pointing at one must hear about Krishna. One must hear about Krishna. One must engage the mind in hearing about Krishna. That's how one should act. One should glorify Krishna, one should remember him, and one should please him. But now what? What if I don't have a taste? I don't like to hear about Krishna. Sometimes it can be a little bit kind of, what's the word? What is the word? That we realize that actually I don't have a taste. You sit down and read, and how long you last before you fall asleep? It's like you open the book, it's like 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 10 minutes. Or we may not even have, and that's already quite good if we are picking up the book and open it to read it. But many people don't even open the book. And we think maybe because we're busy, occupied, and so many things, but actually, if we have a taste for an activity, we'll do it. Yeah. So then the question is, okay, yes, but I don't have a taste. I don't have a taste. So what am I going to do? So this verse answers that question. That by rendering service to 2 personalities, 2 Bhagavats, the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat. By rendering service to them too, then Vasudeva Kataruchi. It says one gains affinity for hearing the messages of Vasudeva. So here it is, and that's what we're saying before. Someone said we have to follow Bhagavad Gita, Pancharatrika Vidhi. They're both going together because, you can explain it in different ways for sure. But the idea is that by rendering service, we are kind of plodding the heart, so that the heart becomes our heart becomes open to hear the message of Krishna consciousness. Our hearts our heart needs to open to the holy name. Our hearts needs to open to the message of the Bhagavatam, and this is done through service, and it's done through service with the. And it's interesting. It's not saying serving to Krishna, of course. Don't get me wrong. The whole point is about bhakti, but it is interesting that the beginning of that service is by serving the devotees, and by serving the book about Krishna, by serving those things that are related to Krishna. It's bhakti, of course. It's bhakti. It's the topmost bhakti to serve the devotees, no doubt. But the point is made that is serving the devotees is, you could say, more important than serving Krishna, Because without serving Krishna, without serving the devotees, we cannot serve Krishna. We will not get the taste to serve Krishna. So everything begins. Now we're talking about the different stages of bhakti. Everything begins through service of the devotees. That's the beginning. Yeah. And he says, by serving those devotees who are completely freed from all vice, great service is done. So now, my question to you is, should we only focus on serving those devotees who are free from all vice? Or should we just pick and choose? Okay, well, let's see. That devotee seems to be struggling a little bit. Maybe I should not serve him. I should serve, or he looks more advanced. So how do we understand this? Is that we become very selective? Or, I mean, I don't know. How do you understand this? That we should render service to those devotees who are fully pure in heart. And that great service is done. How do you understand? Okay, Vansidhar Prabhu.
Prabhu, externally, based on their, how they look or how they behave, we are not able to identify whether a devotee is pure or not. So we should serve everybody equally.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, I mean, in the Nectar of Instruction, Prabhupada says it takes a pure devotee to recognize another pure devotee. So, we don't really know, I mean, obviously, through the study of the scriptures, we can see symptoms, symptoms. So, but it's not so easy. It's not so easy because there's so many different criteria. So, okay, I take that point. Chatura Mataji.
Yeah, according to this verse, my understanding is that there are three kinds of devotee. So in this verse, it is said those devotees who are completely free from all vice. That is the first class devotee, the pure devotees of the Lord. So we should serve them with respect. And then there are the second kind of devotee, that is the devotee maybe is equal to us. So we should make friends with them and cooperate with them, and to preach and etc. to perform some devotional service. And then to the third class of devotee, those new devotees, we should conduct ourselves and then teach them. So I think that is this verse teach us.
Yeah, that's definitely the instruction that are given by Srila Rupa Goswami, for sure. And there is some level of discrimination, but that doesn't mean that we should not serve all the devotees. And that's the point I want to bring, that the mood should be of service. We should be ready to serve everyone and anyone, because even if we are serving the not so advanced devotees, by doing that, we're pleasing Prabhupada, which is the topmost devotee. Prabhupada wanted us to look after everyone. And sometimes the ethos is that the guru comes and, it's a whole thing arranged. People goes out of the way to serve him, which is wonderful. But then the new person comes and we neglect them. And maybe the guru doesn't need the feast, doesn't need the big cooking. A lot of the time they have their own diets. It's almost like an austerity to go to different homes to eat different meals cooked by, it can be like that sometimes. But the new person that comes, we don't pay attention. So the point we made here is, yes, we should seek those devotees who are advanced. We should seek those devotees who are, pure, free from all vice, and get their association. That goes without saying. That's we should be very eager to attain that association. At the same time, we should be rendering service to everyone. We should be in that mood. And Prabhupada in the purport refers that by serving, I believe I got it on the slide actually. Just give me a second. Okay, so we had this. This is again like a little overview. I'm just gonna, so I don't have to come back. So after serving the devotees, okay, we're going to jump on that. Okay, here it is. Verse 16. How acquire a taste of hearing? Prabhupada writes. Okay, someone can read. Someone who has not spoken yet, maybe you can read this.
The servants of God come to propagate God consciousness, and the intelligent people should cooperate with them in every respect. By saving the servant of God, one can please God more than by directly serving the Lord. The Lord is more pleased when he sees that his servant are properly respected, because such servant risk everything for the service of the Lord, and so are very dear to the Lord. The Lord declares.
Oops. Go.
The Lord declares in the Bhagavad Gita 18.69 that no one is dearer to him than one who risks everything to preach his glory. By saving the servants of the Lord, one gradually gets the quality of such servants, and thus one becomes qualified to hear the glories of God. The eagerness to hear about God is the first qualification of a devotee eligible for entering the kingdom of God. Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.2.16.
So, you know, we're talking about important principles here, okay? And here we have like two principles. Well, we have many, okay? One of them is that, you know, by serving the devotees, one can please the Lord more than by serving the Lord himself. One principle, okay? By serving the servants of the Lord, one gains the quality of those servants. We're going to see that all this is going to be exemplified later on in the life of Narada Muni. We're going to see it, that by serving the Bhaktivedantas, he actually developed the same mentality of the Bhaktivedantas. And now another principle is here, or what is the first qualification? The first qualification for a devotee to enter into the kingdom of God is to develop this eagerness to hear. How important it is. So therefore, we should take this opportunity to engage in service. And as you know, particularly Prabhupada is focusing here on those devotees who have actually taken the service to preach Krishna consciousness. So particularly, you know, and this is the purpose of ISKCON. And I'm emphasizing the point about that we should serve everyone, because sometimes I've seen that kind of, you know, a little bit of kind of tendency to be a bit kind of personality cult. You know, I'm very, very specific about serving this personality. He's very exalted, but we don't behave nicely with other devotees. It's almost like a contradiction, you know. So when we read this verse, is that we should understand that serving the devotees, all the devotees, is so important for my spiritual life. So important. My whole life, Bhakti Tirtha Swami has a famous quote, which is, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but he's saying more or less that, you know, we should see that every interaction with every member in the community, you know, my whole spiritual life depends on that interaction. How important it is. Okay, so we're moving on. Next verse is verse 17. So now, what occurs after we become eager to hear? Okay, sorry, there was some hands up there. Whenever I have the PowerPoint, I don't see the hands up. Is there anyone else who had a hand up that wanted to speak? I just seeing another person here, Yaji. You just joined the course?
Oh yes, Prabhu. I just joined this week.
Okay. Where are you?
Sorry?
Where are you?
I'm in China.
In China. Okay. Welcome to the course. Hare Krishna. Nice to have you. Okay. Is there anyone who had a hand up there? No?
Prabhu, actually, I have one more question.
Yes.
Yeah, in the
Patita
verse.
Tarana was the person I saw. Okay. Chatura,
Yeah,
tell us.
in the second chapter, the verse 1 is that those stages are brahmanas. So are these stages kanistha, or they also new devotees?
Which sages? The sages and Naimisharanya?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't, I haven't heard anything specifically said about that, but I believe there was sages there was like 60,000 sages. So I believe there was all kinds of sages.
Yeah. These sages, they gather in this forest, and then they want to hear from Sukadeva Goswami.
No, they want to hear from Sutta Goswami.
Yeah, Sutta. I mean that those sages, they are kanistha devotees.
They are, I mean, in one, I don't remember when, in what place it is given in one of the commentaries to Bhagavad Gita about the different types of Sukritinas, and you have Artha, Artharti, and you have the inquisitive. As the inquisitive is given the example of the sages at Naimisharanya. Okay, so that will indicate that they were like neophytes, devotees. That will indicate, but I will not dare to make that as a general statement, as a sweeping statement that all the sages there were like that. And to be honest, I don't know why the example is there. I don't know if it's maybe in the Nectar of Devotion. Could be in the Nectar of Devotion. I don't remember where the example is coming from right now. So it's obviously mentioned there that they were like, they had that eagerness for knowledge, okay? And they were inquiring from Sutta Goswami. Okay, Patita Tanana Jagannath Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavad Pranam. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was thinking about the association of a pure devotee. Sometimes we couldn't recognize them, or sometimes don't have that ability to recognize them. So in my opinion, Prabhu, what I'm thinking is by distributing Prabhupada's book, you are closely associating with the pure devotee, and you're engaging in direct service to the pure devotee. So that was my opinion, Prabhu.
Perfect. That's the point. And that's what Prabhupada is explaining in the purport. Prabhupada is saying, by serving those devotees who are engaged in the missions, this ISKCON society is a preaching mission. We should be very eager to serve all the devotees. And I'm bringing this up because I have heard so many devotees that were disheartened because they needed some favor, they needed something, and they couldn't get that favor from the devotees. And they were saying, gosh, I go out and I ask my neighbor and they will do it for me. But the devotees are just too busy to give me a hand. I need to move something out of my garage, or I need to, do some physical work, or, something. And I ask the devotees and, they're too busy to help me, So it's just important, I think, that we care for each other, that we serve, that we understand, as I said, that, my interaction with other Vaishnavas in the community, my whole spiritual life depends on it. It's the same with our family members, If we are grihastas, we should not think that serving our family is like a distraction from devotional service. And this is a misconception many devotees have. These are Krishna's servants, my wife, my son, my daughter, and I should take care of them. We should take care of the newcomer. Like, I remember when I first started visiting the temple, one of the first time, and I was given the garland, Prabhupada's garland, it changed my life. And just one garland, how much that meant to me. So, when new people come, that little attention that we may give to a person, it may change their life. How much Krishna is pleased when we act like this. When we're caring for the devotees. It's a very serious thing. And when we do that, then the heart will become cleansed. Envy will abandon our hearts. Material desire will leave the heart. Then, you know, that basically we develop the desire to hear. And that's what happens when we become eager to hear. That's verse 17. Shimvata swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana hridyantastohya bhadrani vidunoti suritsatam. Shri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma super soul in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the devotee, from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Such a beautiful, beautiful verse, okay? Shimvata swakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana. It says, Prabhupada explained that this message is pious by itself. Punya shravana kirtana. It means that when you hear and when you chant this Bhagavatam, is basically a pious activity. And even if you don't understand what is being heard or chanted, because it's a pious activity, it cleanses the heart, it attracts Krishna. Punya Shravana Kirtana, Hridyantastohya Bhadrani, Vidunoti Surit Satan. It says Krishna, who is Surit, who is in the heart. Now in Sanskrit, you have various words to define a friend. Okay, you have like Maitra, you have like Bandhu, and then you have Surit, okay? So it's like in English, you have acquaintances, you have different types of levels of friendship. But now, when we're talking about Surit, okay? Surit means a well-wisher. A person that you have such a relationship with is in the heart. It's like a heart connection, like a soulmate, a well-wishing friend. Do you have any well-wishing friends? Someone who, no matter what you do, will not let you down. They will always be wishing you the best. Do we have any friends like this? It's hard. If you have them, you're lucky. Huh? So Krishna is such a friend. He will not let us down. He's sitting in the heart and he's looking for every opportunity to help us and assist us. And if we fall down, even if we make mistakes, he will always be there to pick us up. That's Krishna. Okay? Surit-satan. So he who is seated in the heart, vidunoti surit-satan. He cleanses the heart from what? From desire for material enjoyment. But it's interesting, he says, you know, it says that he's the benefactor of the truthful devotee. I was just thinking about this, Satam, that the truth, we have to become honest. You know, we have to become honest to ourselves and honest to Krishna. Truthful. No more crookedness. No more, yes, you know, I am like pretending that I want you, I love you, Krishna, but really speaking, you know, it's not that important for me, your service. It's not that important for me to go back home, back to Godhead. It's not that important for me to please the devotees, you know. No, we, you know, if that's the case, that it's not that important for me to go back home, back to Godhead, we gotta be truthful about it. He said, Krishna, you know, look at my condition, you know. Despite all these instructions, I'm still not serious about going back home, back to Godhead. Please help me. Despite all that I heard, I still so attached to self-certification. Please help me. That's being truthful. you know? And not being truthful means that, you know, we pretend something we're not. Because when we're truthful, then we can see what the problem is, and we can, you know, really make an effort to give it up and get rid of it. And the point being made in these verses, my dear devotees, is that you cannot do it on your own. You cannot get rid of these anarthas on your own. Only Krishna can. So therefore, he who has become eager to hear, that person, Krishna comes and he is the benefactor of that person, the truthful, and he will cleanse his heart just by hearing, even if we don't understand it. I can give myself as an example of this. When I first came in touch in Krishna consciousness, I was on a journey to India, and I went to England first, and I didn't speak English. Practically, I mean, I had studied a little English at the school and the university, but, you know, I didn't speak it. I have learned something. So English was a new language for me. And when I started to read Prabhupada's books, I was, you know, just like reading them as a practice, you could say, for my English. I wasn't really understanding most of it, you know, because it was a new language. And then I was going to the temple, and I wasn't understanding, like, not even like 50% of what it was saying, less than that. I remember the first time I saw a spiritual master giving class, it was His Holiness Lokanath Swami, you know. Lokanath Swami, he speaks in a very kind of slow way, and that was like almost 30 years ago. And I remember that I still remember what he was talking, because I asked someone else, but he was just saying he arrived at the airport, and you know, he saw how everybody's running and rushing, you know, to fulfill their desires, you know. But I remember that, you know, I couldn't understand most of it, but the seed of Bhakti was implanted in my heart, you know, just by hearing. And being a materialist down in the gutters of material existence, I got lifted. So this is the power of this message. You don't even need to, because this is one complaint that some people make about not reading the book. I don't understand it. You don't have to. You just have to hear it. That's all. Let it enter your ears, you know. Of course, we want to understand it as well. Okay, so let's read. This is very nice purport. Someone could read, someone who has not, you know, contributed yet.
The Lord is reciprocally.
Murli Govinda Prabhu, we have heard you many times, and I really appreciate your participation. But let allow the people also. Yeah, go ahead.
The Lord is reciprocally responding to his devotees. When he sees that a devotee is completely sincere in getting admittance to the transcendental service of the Lord, and has thus become eager to hear about him, the Lord acts from within the devotee in such a way that the devotee may easily go back to him. The Lord is more anxious to take us back into his kingdom than we can desire. Most of us do not desire at all to go back to Godhead. Only a very few men want to go back to Godhead. But anyone who I can't see the.
Yeah, sorry. Is it coming? Yeah.
Anyone who desires to go back to Godhead, Sri Krishna helps in all respects. Women and wealth are very difficult problems for the devotees making progress on the path back to Godhead. By the grace of God, such a devotee gets sufficient strength to defend himself from the state of disturbances, and gradually all disturbing elements are eliminated from his mind. Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.2.
So what is Prabhupada saying? He says that that someone becomes eager to hear about him, okay? And why one becomes eager? Because he wants to go back home back to God. This is a symptom of someone who is serious about spiritual life. I want to learn, I want to hear. And he says that the Lord acts from within in such a way that the devotee may easily go back to him. I remember there is a purport in the Caitanya-caritamrta, beautiful purport, where Prabhupada says that the Lord acts in very subtle ways, acts in a way that the devotee doesn't even know he's acting. He's making arrangements so that we may easily go back home, back to God. And now here is the crude reality. Most of us do not desire at all to go back home, back to God. Now the question is, I often get the question, why are we not going back home, back to God? Well, here is the answer. We don't really want to. The Lord is more anxious than we are to take us back home. And we say, oh, it's so difficult, Krishna consciousness, it's so difficult, so many obstacles. Maya won't let me go. Maya won't let me go. Krishna is more eager than we are for us to go back home. He will make all the arrangements. Only a very few men want to go back home, back to God. And now what are the main obstacles? Women and wealth. And for men, women are women. And for women, men are women. Okay? So the opposite sex and wealth. These are very difficult things. And Prabhupada explains that it's natural to become agitated, disturbed in their association. But by the grace of God, such a devotee gets sufficient strength to defend himself from the state of disturbances. So this is the essence of this, what we are learning is that through hearing, by developing eagerness to hear and associating with the sound vibration, Krishna from within the heart purifies us. And all these impurities are gradually taken care of. Okay. So let's go. Someone can read, someone else?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
When Krishna sees that this living entity now sincere to hear about me, he helps Shridi because he is there. You haven't got to find out somewhere else. You haven't got to go to the Himalaya to find him. He is here. Shridi antastohi. So he is also within. And my all dirty things are also within. So as soon as he sees this living entities now little serious about hearing about me, he helps. He helps you. I cannot get out of these dirty things by my own endeavor. That is not possible. But Krishna helps. Srimad-Bhagavatam 1-17 Vrindavan, October 28, 1972.
So I cannot get these dirty things out of my heart. Have you reached that realization yet? Have you got to that point?
Yes.
Yes. Can we get rid of our anarthas ourselves? Bad weeds. What happened with weeds? You pull them out and then after a little while they come up again, right? You see, not like this happens with Krishna consciousness. We had some bad tendency and then we do something bad and then we deeply regret it and I will not do it again. I will not. And then, again it happens. And then more regret. Is that only me? Only me then, eh? I guess I must be the most fallen. Maybe you should give class, not me then. Huh?
No, Prabhu, we all are there in this room. I mean, at least I can say for myself.
I'm always feeling that.
Yes, Prabhu.
You get angry with someone provokes you, and then you just get all angry, and then afterwards you say, oh my God, that was so stupid. I'll not do it again. Next day, same thing happens. So we have to put our endeavor. It's no question that we should just leave it all up to Krishna. But the point is that it comes to the point that we have to beg Krishna, you please take these things away, I cannot do it myself. Lust, anger, greed, envy, lamentation, illusion. bodily identification, apathy. I mean, all these things like a constant battle. So our process is we hear and chant our Krishna. Simple. Where is Janmashtami? Are you with us, Janmashtami Prabhu? I don't feel you here. I think somehow I don't feel that you're with us today. Are you there?
He was there earlier. Now he is not visible.
It's difficult for him. I mean, he's really late there. I feel sympathy. Staying up at 11 o'clock at night. So that's why I try to bring him in. So Janmashtami, Hare Krishna. We are here. Okay. So let's continue. Yeah, very beautiful verses. Very good for preaching. So what happens after we become eager to hear? So that comes to verse 18, and we're going to stop here because it's now like 1.5 hours since we started the class. So we'll do a little break for 10 minutes, and then we'll continue in 10 minutes. Okay, so it's 3:31. We continue at 3:41. Just add 10 minutes to your clocks, wherever you are. Okay, Hare Krishna, Haribol. Welcome back. So we're continuing with our discussion. We're on verse 18. And now the question is, what happens, what occurs after we become eager to hear? So famous verse from Bhagavatam, we recited often at the beginning of the Bhagavatam class. Nashta prayeshva bhadresu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktivaibhava nashtiki. By regular attendance in classes of the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. A loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So before I was making the point with Susruso Sadadanasya Vasudeva Kataruchi, I was just saying that serving those things which are connected with the Lord. Here, this verse specifically mentions that point, actually, that by rendering, once we become eager to hear, then that becomes Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. It doesn't become something that we do like, in an intermittent way, but it becomes like steady. And this is what we're talking about, how the different stages of Bhakti, how it moves through the different stages of Bhakti. So now this verse, Nasta Prayesva Bhadesu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya, it says that Bhagavati Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. This Nashtiki Bhakti means now the devotional service becomes steady. When we become eager to hear, actually eager to hear, then it becomes a steady practice. So we come to the platform of Nishtha. So it begins with Shraddha. Shraddha means that we have faith in the process. Shraddha basically means that we have actually come to the understanding that, yes, Krishna consciousness is a topmost activity, and the goal of life is to please Krishna. Okay. Obviously, from Shraddha to Prema, you could say that Shraddha, when Shraddha is fully developed, that's Prema. Okay. So it's like a gradual progression, right? But that initial, at least to have that initial conviction that, yeah, Krishna consciousness is the right thing. The purpose of life is to go back home to God. I have the conviction somehow, through the association of the devotees, I have come to that conclusion that, yeah, Krishna consciousness is the ultimate goal of life. Okay. So when one understands this, then, naturally one wants to associate with the devotees. He wants to be with the devotees who are aiming at attaining the same goal. Right? And then we want to serve the devotees. We want to serve the devotees. And And then when that desire to serve the devotees and becomes also like a fix, then, in the association of the devotees, what do? We engage in bhajana kriya, we engage in devotional service, we practice. We take formal initiation from the devotee, and then we become engaged in that practice. And then as we become engaged in the practice, then the impurities in the heart, they manifest, they begin, the heart begins to, the actual purification begins right from the beginning, but now it's like, it takes really, it becomes a lot more kind of dynamic, that process, and then we begin to see things coming in the heart. And that's what is being described in the previous verse, that Krishna, from the heart, from within the heart, he cleanses those things. And often what happens in Krishna consciousness is that they come out. It's not that, they just disappear. Sometimes they do, but often they don't. Often Krishna just show them to us. And then, we were not even aware they were there before. And we become disgusted with those things. And we give them up, But then what happens is that as the heart is becoming cleansed and cleansed and cleansed, then, from anartha nivriti, we move to the platform of nishta, because when anartha nivriti is taking place, what's happening is that basically we are too disturbed by our anarthas to properly hear and chant. Don't get me wrong, because we can hear and chant. I assume that many of us are on that stage in life, anartha nivriti is taking place. But the point is what we're discovering, that there is interruption, there is distraction, material desires are coming, there are conflicting desires, there is envy in the heart, there's all these things.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, you are on mute.
I'm not. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So, all these things are there, and they impede us from moving from a steady practice in Krishna consciousness, and that's nishta. So when we come to the platform of nishta, what's happening is that these desires and these, the influence of the modes of nature begins to kind of subside. Still, we are affected from time to time, but sometimes when the body was explaining, like, up until the point of nishta, we're like, like cycling up the hill, okay? Cycling up the hill. It's like up the road. Oh my God, so many, like impediments in the path, and we're cleansing, and it's kind of hard. Then when we come to the platform of nishta, it's almost like we reach the top, and now we're moving on horizontal, on a plain land, But then what happens from time to time is that there are bumps. Still at the platform of nishta, from time to time we get like shaken, But the idea is that at that point of nishta, our devotional practices become steady, because we're not so disturbed by the anarthas in the heart, okay? And we want to get to this platform as soon as possible, because from this point, really things really they move fast, at that point, because the medicine by which we can become cured from the anarthas is to hear about chant, to hear about Krishna. And up until the point of nishta, it's very interrupted, it's not so concentrated. But from the point of nishta, it becomes very steady, very concentrated. And then rapidly we move into ruchi. And ruchi now is like moving down the hill, where the mind is naturally attracted. We want to hear about Krishna. We are automatically drawn to Krishna consciousness, to Krishna conscious topics. And he says that, the mind may sometimes entertain some other thoughts, but still it's like it just comes and goes. It's not like the mind is still if anything comes into the mind which is not related to Krishna consciousness, the mind will naturally gravitate to Krishna consciousness. It's not like before that we have to bring it back. No, naturally the mind will say, no, I don't want this, I want Krishna. And then when we come to the platform of Shakti, then there is nothing comes into the mind. And then from there, Shakti, we come into Bhava Bhakti, which basically, it means that we become free from the influence of the three modes of material nature. The heart is cleansed, and then we can actually experience transcendental realization, like the internal potency of Krishna. Premankur. Well, actually, before that, basically, the internal potency comes, and the nectar of devotion explains that the sun rays, it's like sun rays, they enter into our heart, and we get revelation of the Lord, and that leads to prema. The beginning is the sun rays enter little in the heart, and we become enlightened about our relationship with Krishna, our constitutional position, and Krishna's pastimes. At the level of prema, we enter there. Even within this material body, already have like access to Krishna. So this is the gradual development. So at this level of verse 18 that we're describing right now is a platform of Nishta, Nashta Prayesha Vadrishu. Okay. So this is from the purport. Let's hear from someone who has not contributed yet today. I will appreciate if those who don't contribute, they really contribute. I don't have to invite you. You just, make sure you participate in the class. It's nice. Okay.
Two types of Bhagavata. Here is the remedy for eliminating all inauspicious things within the heart, which are considered to be obstacles in the path of self-realization. The remedy is the association of the Bhagavatas. There are two types of Bhagavatas, namely the book Bhagavat and the devotee Bhagavat. Both the Bhagavatas are competent remedies, and both of them or either of them can be good enough to eliminate the obstacles.
So the point again is that we cannot approach the Lord directly. We approach the Lord through the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavatam. Continue.
Yes, Guruji, I'm not able to see the next slide.
You don't? It's there, no?
Yeah. A devotee Bhagavat is as good as the book Bhagavat because the devotee Bhagavat leads his life in terms of the book Bhagavat. And the book Bhagavat is full of information about the personality of Godhead and his pure devotees, who are also Bhagavatas. Bhagavat book and person are identical. Srimad-Bhagavatam 1.2.18 purport.
So it is, as I mentioned, the point we made is that we approach the Lord through the Bhagavat. And it takes two shapes. It takes the form of the book Bhagavat and the person who leads his life according to the teachings of the Bhagavatam. So Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. Nasta Prayesa Bhadrisu, Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. And that by doing this, almost all inauspicious things from the heart become, all inauspicious things become almost completely destroyed. So now, what are those inauspicious things in the heart? So this is coming from Madhurya Kadambini, where different, and I'm giving this as an additional information. You don't need to memorize this. Just, it's good to hear, I guess, to be familiar with these things, but not required for this course, but I just like to go through them. So this, there are different types of anarthas, and we already described from Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He gives a different analysis now. But here, it says, Utsaha Mayi, it says enthusiasm indicating pride. At the beginning, like pride in personal devotional achievements causes beginning devotees to immaturely think that they, unlike others, have already mastered everything. Sometimes we call this the pure devotee syndrome. Devotees come new to Krishna consciousness, and it's like, or we come in the beginning and we're getting so much taste. Krishna is giving so much reciprocation, that is like, yeah, like in 6 months I'll be like, GBC or something like that, and then, in like a couple of years I will become, we become infatuated. And we may even think devotees who have been practicing for longer years, and they may be struggling and thinking, what's wrong with these guys? Right? It's called utsamaya. And you can see this even in other practices. Someone takes a new practice in any field, and you become overly enthusiastic at the beginning, like, oh yeah, this is so interesting, so good, But then after a while you lose the attraction. Yeah. So this is things I'm just mentioning them because it's good to be a devotee is thoughtful and introspective. And often when we read the Bhagavatam, we kind of forget the Bhagavatam is speaking to us directly. And sometimes we hear some stories and we think, that this doesn't apply to us, but it does. Everything applies to us. And it's important that we become alert to these tendencies, like personal devotional achievements. We may become infatuated by something we do on Krishna consciousness. Something is and I said this tendency to think that we know better, very dangerous. Krishna doesn't like that. And Krishna consciousness is not based on any kind of material qualification. You can be very smart and miss the whole point, So Krishna consciousness is an affair of the heart. Gana Tarala, moving unsteadily between diligence and negligence. Such a devotee chances rounds one day, the next day he's too busy, one day he reads scriptures, the next day he's too sleepy. Since, like I was saying, from now on, I am going to read 2 hours Bhagavatam every day, and it doesn't last. So I always say to the devotees that whenever they ask me about these things, just start with something that you can really manage, and build gradually. That's much better than, setting yourself like a really high standard and then not being able to maintain it. So, okay, let's do, okay, I'm going to do like, Ekadashi, Nijal Ekadashi every, just one step at a time. Do it in a way that it is going to, you're going to be able to maintain it. Because if we don't, then it brings a sense of defeat. Vyuda Vikalpa, flickering determination. Should I remain householder? Should I take sannyas? Like wake up in the morning, I'm sannyas. Then by the afternoon, maybe I should get a grihasta and become a grihasta. Should I enjoy my youth? And thereby fulfill my tendency for sanctification? I mean, I need it, Should I practice or should I just give it up? The mind is going all over the place. It's almost like funny, you could make a short sketch about, I believe we've done it before, where the body is like, flickering. And so this is another type of anartha, flickering determination. Then Vishaya Sangara, an ongoing struggle with sense pleasure, seeing themselves being carried away by waves of material enjoyment. The body is firmly resolved, from now on, I'll take shelter of Krishna's holy name. Then they try to renounce everything and simply to chant, but the practice is intermittent and they're forced by their own nature to enjoy what they have renounced. So this is the point about what I was making, that, and it's a touchy subject actually, because, every individual is every individual, and we should be acting under superior guidance. But the point is that we can only start from where we are at. You cannot force yourself to be more advanced than you are. So you have to, and there is a different type of medicine for different degrees of the disease. If you take too much ghee, so many medicines, you can gradually increase the dose, right? So with Krishna consciousness, it's also the same. We have to take the right dose so that we don't, get burnt out also. Finding balance, very difficult. One of the most difficult things there is, Niyama kshama, inability to improve devotional practices. Okay, that's, self-explanatory. We want to, like read every day, and 1 year passes, 2 years passes, 3 years passes, we're still not doing it, right? Taranga Rangini, delighting in the material facilities that Bhakti produces. The engaging nature of Bhakti attracts position, followers, and wealth. Devotees become enamored by these small waves, Taranga, in the ocean of Bhakti. So we become, these things can become a distraction. Okay, so now the question, before we move into the next verse, sometimes the question is mentioned that it says that, there is more points to this verse actually. It says that all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. So when we're talking about almost completely destroyed, how do we understand this in this context? Because it says, by regular attendance in classes of the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So, what does it mean that it's almost completely destroyed? I'm always asked the question, so this time I'm asking the question to you. What does it mean? Prema Manjari. Have we got Jamastami back now or not? Okay.
Okay, so to my understanding, this means that so the heart is purified to a certain degree. Like Srila Prabhupada actually explained in one of the classes that is about 75% purified heart. And so the lower modes of material nature are still there in a minute degree, but not so much that would really cause disturbance for the devotee. So he can remain steady. So the goodness is so much already predominant that the lower modes cannot disturb him.
And are you referring to the stage of Nishta, or what are you referring to?
Yes, I'm referring to the stage of Nishta.
Yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. Yeah. So, but then my question will be, do we need anything else to be able to clean the heart fully?
Yes, of course. We need to continue. We need to continue with our hearing and chanting.
Yeah. But my question is, do we need anything apart from Nitya and Bhagavat Sevaya? Because the verse is saying that by regular attendance to the classes of the Bhagavatam and by regular attendance to by rendering service to the pure devotee,
yes,
all that is troublesome is almost completely destroyed. So sometimes the question is there that, well, do we need to do something else? Because this doesn't seem to be sufficient to clean the heart completely. Do you understand the question or not?
Yeah, I understand the question. No, we don't need to
Everybody else understood the question. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yes, Prabhu.
Are you with us? Shama Priya, you got it?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah? Okay. Now tell us, Prema Manjari.
So if I understand your question, you mean this is that doubt that may come.
Yeah.
Right? in the power of hearing and chanting and serving the devotee. No, we don't need to do anything else, because this is sufficient to purify us further if we just keep going.
Yeah, precise. So this verse is actually saying this because we are describing a particular stage, which is a stage of Nishta. And a stage of Nishta, the heart is not completely cleansed. But like you said, most of the dirt is out and we reach steadiness. But still, there is something, as I was saying before, you are going nicely in Krishna consciousness, but from time to time, something may come up, and then you have to kind of, purify that. Continue, like you say, continue. The way we purify our hearts in Krishna consciousness is by taking shelter of Krishna, by continuing with the process with determination and begging Krishna for his help. And then gradually we progressing. But the process remains the same. Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya is service to the devotees, service to the Bhagavatam, is chanting the holy name, It's not that we need to change anything. Chatura Mataji.
Yeah, Prabhu, when devotees reach to this stage, they still have made some offenses. They cannot do the offenseless chanting. So this is so it's not complete cleansed.
You see, I mean, but that can happen at any stage. That can happen even at the stage of higher levels. Offenses is something that destroys our bhakti. Is compared to like a mad elephant enters your garden. You take so much time in cultivating your garden, your devotional creeper, and then you let a mad elephant come and destroy it all. So this tendency for aparad, this is the one thing that the devotee is very much afraid of committing Vaishnava aparad. So we should be very careful. So I don't know if that was a question or a comment from you, Chatura.
No, that's it.
Yeah. Murli Govinda Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu, Hare Krishna. What I understood is, it was explained also earlier in Bhakti Sastri, like even after reaching that Nishta stage also, we cannot be complacent. We have to keep on watering the root of this Bhakti Lata means.
Correct. I mean, the point is that at the point when we reach Nishta, there is no complacency there.
Am I audible, Prabhuji?
Yeah, you are audible.
Okay. So we cannot be complacent. That's what I feel, because even after reaching the Nishta stage, almost we have crossed some, before that we have crossed 1, 2, 3, 4 stages. So this is the 5th stage. So we should not keep quiet. We have to keep on watering this devotional tree, like keep on hearing this Bhagavatam. We keep on associating with, but otherwise some anarthas will take place again.
Yeah, somehow your internet connection is breaking up. We got your point, and that leads actually to the next verse. So let's read the next verse. Well, actually, wait a minute. Yeah. So what occurs after the devotee reaches Nishta, steadiness? So that comes to verse 19. Tadarayas tamovava kamalovadayaschaye chetai anavidam stitam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is establishing goodness, and he becomes completely happy. So you're talking about being complacent. That's like being lazy, okay? So that's the mode of ignorance. When we become steady in Krishna consciousness, then gradually the effects of the modes of passion and ignorance, they disappear from the heart. And then as we move even more progressively on the path of Krishna consciousness, because what basically is we could explain like our hearing and chanting, okay? Our hearing and chanting, this is what makes us attached to Krishna. Like we were repeating the verse from Bhagavad Gita, Maya Sakta Manaparta, Yogan Yugyam Asraya, Samsayan Samagrama Yatagyasyashi Tachrino. Now here, how, now listen, hear from me how, with mind attached to me, how you can know me in full, free from doubt. So, and the purport to that verse, by the way, this is the verse in the Bhagavad Gita that Prabhupada spoke the most. He gave the most lectures, okay? And in the purport to that verse, Prabhupada repeats all these verses. It's right in the purport, all these verses. Because this is the, like condensed explanation of how Bhakti works. And basically everything is obviously leading towards developing a relationship with Krishna. But the means to develop a relationship with Krishna is to hear about him. And we move through these processes of bhakti. You could say in one sense that our ability to hear is what's changing. The quality of our hearing is what is changing. And that's why I say, in one sense, our faith is increasing. The stronger our faith, the more eager we're to hear. I believe it was Jiva Goswami, one of our acharyas, he said that when we read the Bhagavatam, it should be read with the same anticipation that when a lover, when a lover is awaiting the letter of her beloved. And, it's like just waiting and waiting. And then, the letter comes, it's like, opens the letter, and it's such a kind of eagerness to hear. So he says that this is the spirit of listening to the Bhagavatam. So, as we're moving through the path of bhakti, our hearing is very much like when you're in the radio and you're trying to tune in, and there is so many like all these noises, and this is what's happening. We're sitting here, like you watch yourself right now. What's your mind saying? How much of this is there? Oh, I'm tired. How long is this going to go for? Whatever it may be, I'm hungry. Oh, this happened yesterday. Oh, I have to do the shopping. Oh, I have to do this. Oh, the mind is distracted, or someone is bothering us, and, but the more we advance on the path of bhakti, the less of this background noise is there. And then when we reach to the platform of Nishta, it means that we can hear steadily. Then Tado Rajas Tamo Bhava. Now that at that point is, and now we're talking about Bhava Bhakti actually, that the effects of nature's modes of passion is eliminated. Passion comes in the form of distraction. I mean, you pick up the Bhagavatam, what happens? The phone rings, I need to answer this email, oh, I forgot that I have to do this thing, that's that. Is it not? Do you experience this? You're gonna get the Bhagavatam and something comes to distract you? Or is it only me? Yeah? Distraction, okay? And then laziness. Okay, eventually, finally I got time, the children out, and I have half an hour. Finally, I can sit down and read Bhagavatam, I'm so eager to read it. And then you sit down and read it, and before you know it, okay, let me just take a little nap, right? And then I'll read afterwards. And then the day goes by, and then you don't have that half an hour again, and then another day goes past, and another day goes past. And then you are 20 years in the movement, and you haven't read the full Bhagavatam yet. So many devotees. This is reality. So but what is being explained here, we, developing this eagerness, and it's, in one sense, it's like, it's a what you call it? It's a conscious effort, So now when the modes of passion and ignorance, they are not there anymore, you come to the platform of Vasuddha Sattva. What is the quality of that hearing? The transcendental sound vibration is coming without any interference. It's just like pure. Like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he's explaining in the Caitanya-caritamrta that, one should hear with faith and without argument. It's like that we're hearing things also in the Bhagavatam, and where a lot of the time our ego is there, and well, I'm not too sure that that's right. Maybe, some kind of, doubt may arise, or, and we're not, and then while we're contemplating that thought, that our mind goes into something, and then, we continue reading, and then when it comes back, we miss something out. I don't know if I mentioned to you, I used to go for like Kartik to read to Govardhan to Govardhan, basically to the temple in Govardhan with senior Vaishnavas, to read like 5 hours a day, and sometimes more. And then you could really see your mind there, in the association of the devotees, senior Vaishnavas, and you could see the degree of eagerness of different devotees also. I remember they were like the very senior devotees. You didn't see them getting tired or inattentive, They were just like alert and hearing and very attentive to the whole thing. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 3.5 hours, And then, others were like struggling. Of course, there is a physical need as well. I remember that, at one point I realized actually, well, I have to be rested for this, because I'm not rested, it's a struggle, So, and I believe most of us will learn that. So we will take a little nap somewhere, sometimes during the day or something short, so that we will be fully, alert in the class. So, what I'm trying to say is not just your purity of heart. There is also, we're working with the body, with the machine, so we have to be prepared for that. But my point remains the same, that it's different qualities of hearing, And my realization of that, you want to call it realization or what, but what happens, I find that when you read consistently over a period of time, I'm not talking about 5 hours, if you just read every day, there is at one point that in my case, it's like you hear a voice, it's a voice that's coming through the Bhagavatam, And I don't think it's Prabhupada's voice, if you ask me, I think it's the message, it's Krishna, it's the Bhagavatam, it's Krishna himself. Obviously, we're getting Prabhupada's association, we're getting Dhruva Maharaj, we're getting Narada Muni, we're getting all the people who are appearing in the Bhagavatam. So we're getting Prabhupada, I'm not, but what I'm trying to say is that there is a voice that comes, a voice. And when we hear that, it's like the mind becomes charmed because it's touching the soul, and you want to be there, you want to be in that space. But unfortunately, it's not so easy. It takes practice. It takes regular practice of hearing in the association of the devotees. And then, in our own practice that we hear, and that's why I encourage to read aloud sometimes, because then you're hearing the sound vibration, and this book is like mantras. The sound vibration penetrates the mind, and as the mind and as the sound vibration enters into the mind, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, that gradually eliminated. Needless to say that, this is a very high stage when it comes to the platform of Ruchi and, Asakti and Bhava Bhakti. This is, high up. But still the practice is there that, we want to have that kind of quality reading and chanting, And this is the focus, that I'm actually hearing, I'm actually hearing and letting the sound enter into my heart. And then what happens is the mind becomes attached. When you hear that voice, when you hear the message, the pure message, and it's entering your heart, then you like it. And when you like it, what you do, you want to hear more. And the more you hear, the more your mind becomes attached. And the more your mind becomes attached, the more your focus is redirected to Krishna. Your mind is no longer so much absorbed in, the issues of material life, material existence. It's like, so what? It's not that important. It becomes trivial. It's not that important. But this hearing and chanting, this is it, And I want to be there. I want my mind to be absorbed in that space. And we were talking at the beginning of the class about, getting that taste in Krishna consciousness. We get the absorption sometimes in other activities. It's not just hearing and chanting. We may get the absorption in a kirtan or in doing some temple service, some book distribution, It's there. That's the principle of Nishtha, and the Bhakti stage apply to every activity that we do. But this in this hearing, everything is aiming to that point of steadying, of making the mind fix on Krishna. That's it. So tada rajas tamo bhava, then all, when the desires, the passion and interest are removed, then lust, desire, hankering, all these things are gradually eliminated from the heart. And the devotee, then in that condition, then he becomes happy, basically, And this is what we are searching for. We want that peace, that cessation, Like it's like these material desires, there's such a kind of pain in the heart, isn't it? Material desires, like Hare Krishna, they create so much friction. So can you imagine one day how nice will it be if the heart will be free from material desires? Would you like that? No, I'm not ready for it yet. Come on, I gotta enjoy a little more. Let me just fulfill a few more material desires, then you can take them away. But don't take them all at once, Krishna. I'm not ready for it yet. Come on, Sometimes it's like Krishna starts to take the material desires away, and we're like, wait a minute. I gotta enjoy that a little bit more, right? But actually, this is the most the source of all the problems. Material desire. We cannot fulfill them, and even we fulfill them, we remain dissatisfied. So this is the platform, and then when we become free from these tendencies, then we become happy. Okay, let's read a little bit from Prabhupada's purport. Oh, okay. So there is no in the slide. So I will just like to read from the purport myself. Okay, it says, a living being in his normal constitutional position is fully satisfied in spiritual bliss. This state of existence is called Brahmabhuta or Atmanandi, or the state of self-satisfaction. This self-satisfaction is not like the satisfaction of the inactive fool. The inactive fool is in the state of foolish ignorance, whereas the self-satisfied Atmanandi is transcendental to the material state of existence. This stage of perfection is attained as soon as one is fixed in irrevocable devotional service. Devotional service is not inactivity, but the unalloyed activity of the soul. The soul's activity becomes adulterated in contact with matter, and as such, the diseased activities are expressed in the form of lust, desire, hankering, inactivity, foolishness, and sleep. The effect of devotional service becomes manifest by complete elimination of these effects of passion and ignorance. The devotee is fixed at once in the mode of goodness, and he makes further progress to rise to the position of Vasudev, or the state of a mixed sattva or Shuddha sattva. Only in this Shuddha sattva state can one always see Krishna eye to eye by dint of pure affection for the Lord. A devotee is always in the mode of unalloyed goodness, therefore he harms no one. But the non-devotee, however educated he may be, is always harmful. Okay, so, but you see the stage of Visuddha Sattva. I mean, like, I remember that, the devotees, when they describe what was it like to be with Prabhupada, they described that it was like, so peaceful. Prabhupada had that kind of presence that, everything became very, very serene and very peaceful. And this is a state of Shuddha Sattva. And sometimes we may get a glimpse of this when we enter the temple, the altar, you're near the deity. Those who are pujaris, doing deity worship. Sometimes we have the good fortune here to go into the altars for Panchatattva or Nrsingadev and here in Mayapur. And it's just, just doing menial service there. We come out there so blissful because the spiritual energy is so, real, that it's like a memorable, you don't forget that experience. So the devotees like, Pankajangri Prabhu, Jananivas Prabhu, unfortunately Pankajangri Prabhu left this world, but you come into the presence and they carry that same energy with them. You feel like you're in the altar, it's a kind of peacefulness. Okay, text 20. So, evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogata bhagavad tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. So what happens after, and that, now verse 20, it says, what does a progressive soul experience after Ashakti? So we're going to go through all the verses now, like I'm going to do a summary of all the different stages, but now this text refers to Bhava. Now, when there is no longer influence of the three modes of material nature, the internal potency descends into the heart of the devotee, and the devotee gets revelation. The devotee gets actually darshan of the Lord. Krishna's form, his pastimes, his greatness, his sweetness, his qualities, everything becomes revealed in the heart, just like transcendental television. You get to get darshan from the Lord. So remember, what is the context of what is being explained here is actually the process, the progressive stages of bhakti. Okay. Someone would like to read? Someone who has not contributed today yet?
To hear about Krishna from the Vedic literature or to hear from him directly through the Bhagavad Gita is itself righteous activity. And for one who hears about Krishna, Lord Krishna, who is dwelling in everyone's heart, acts as a best wishing friend and purifies the devotee who constantly engages in hearing of him.
Okay.
In this way,
just 1 second. You see how the different stages of bhakti are being described here, okay? And how the verses that we have read, they are described here. This is Bhagavad Gita purport, actually, I believe. Let's see.
In this way, a devotee naturally develops his dormant transcendental knowledge as he hears more about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and from the devotees. He becomes fixed in the devotional service of the Lord. By development of devotional service, one becomes freed from the modes of passion and ignorance, and thus material lusts and avarice are diminished. When these impurities are wiped away, the candidate remains steady in his position of pure goodness, becomes enlivened by devotional service, and understands the science of God perfectly. Thus, Bhakti Yoga severs the hard knot of material affection and enables one to come at once to the stage of asamsayam samagram, understanding of the supreme absolute truth, personality of Godhead. Therefore, only by hearing from Krishna or from his from his devotee in Krishna consciousness can one understand the science of Krishna. Bhagavad Gita 7.1 purport.
Okay. So now summary, how Bhakti progress. Verse 16, mercy and service of the devotees, Mahat Seva. This is like the beginning, right? Then after serving the devotees, we begin to want to hear about Krishna. What happens? Then, we become eager to hear. Then we hear about Krishna. Then Krishna begins to cleanse the heart. After we become eager to hear, then anartha nivriti takes place. This is verses 16, 17, and 18. Nasta prayeshu abhadreshu. Then 18 also includes that after anartha nivriti, when the heart becomes cleansed, then it's nishta. Then what occurs after the devotee reaches nishta? Then one comes to the platform of taste. And taste is followed by asakti. So stitam sadve tadarayastamo bhava kamalovadaschaya chetaitar anavidam stitam sadve prasidati. One becomes happy, one becomes, and this, ruchi, this taste, when basically ruchi is like you have ruchi basically means taste, right? But asakti means like that taste becomes very, 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 like thick, So that attraction, like sometimes you have like you have a liquid that is pouring down like water, okay? And it's like, gas is like basically is, you cannot pour it, it's all over the place, right? Then it becomes like liquid, and you have different densities of a liquid, like water. It may run very fast, then you have like oil, and it's kind of thicker and it's more dense. You have like honey, it's even more dense. You have like some metals and like, like mercury, but very, very thick, So our attraction for Krishna, our attention, our focus for Krishna, it becomes thicker, more and more intensified, more, more solid, more without any interruption, without anything that, penetrates or interferes with that. And then we come to the platform of Bhava, Eva Prashamna Mana. So the mind becomes enlivened. Did we read the translation? Actually, we didn't. Did we read the translation? It says, thus established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. So that's what I was saying, that one gains darshan of the Lord, and then that leads to actually Bhagavat Tattva Vigyana Mukta Sangasa Jayate. That at that point one becomes completely free from any type of material tendencies. So this is how the process of bhakti works, and we see that it begins with service of the devotees, and it's just a refinement of our hearing and chanting. And then we come to verse 21. Vidyate ridaya grantis chidyante sarvasamsaya kiyante chasya karmani drishta evat manishvare. It says that thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. So what is the knot in the heart? This knot in the heart is the false ego, is this false identification. This false identity, this is what binds us to the material world. The tendency to control, the tendency to enjoy. All the misconceptions of I am the body, I am, all these upadis that we carry with us is all dissolved. Do we aspire for this? Do you feel the knot in the heart? You feel it sometimes? Is it sometimes like almost painful? You feel it sometimes? And it's like, you know, and you try to kind of, you know, there is this internal dialogue, you know, and it's just a false ego a lot of the time. You know, you notice that you're like fighting the false ego, and it's your own false ego. Like someone has tell you something, and you're trying to kind of, you know, rationalize your response and what happened. And he says like this, and if he says like that, I'm gonna say like this. And if he says like that, I'm going to say like this. And if he's gonna say like this, I'm gonna say like this. And if he just says like this, I'm gonna, you know. And then, you know, it's just like all these things. And then maybe you see the person afterwards, and the person comes, oh, Prabhu, I'm sorry, Hare Krishna, please accept my obeisance. You just wasted your half an hour of your japa, you know, thinking about these things. And you say, no. And it's just the false ego. The false ego, we have this sense of identity, and sometimes if someone, you know, somehow disturbs that sense, you know, we can, you know, very, you know, very agitated. But anyway, the point I'm making is that ultimately, I don't know if I told the story or not. Anyway, it's a very nice story, okay? And if I told him, you can interrupt me, anyone can just say, you told us already. But this was in Vrindavan. There was one devotee, her name was Gauri Devidasi. She was a Prabhupada disciple, a book distributor. Those who are book distributors probably know about her. She's like a legend, you know. And she got cancer, and she went to Vrindavan to leave her world, to leave this world, okay? And then somehow she got better. And then she decided that she wanted to do the Krishna's marathon again, Prabhupada's marathon. And she went back to the West to do the book marathon in the US. She was going out in a wheelchair, distributing books. And then she got again sick back again, and then she went back to Vrindavan. And to leave this world. So there was one Kaviraj, one doctor, he was coming there and to see her. And you know, she was getting really, really, you know, like emaciated, you know, seemed like he was about to leave this world. So the doctor came. This doctor was a devotee as well. He had, you know, he was he's a famous Ayurvedic doctor. I forgot his name now actually, but he came and he talked, you know, he analyzed her. I think he took her pulse, and he said, your disease is over. You have 15 minutes to live. Finish. Material disease is gone. You have 10 minutes to live. You understand? What is the disease? False ego. Gone. Finish. You have 10 minutes to live. It's probably the best message we could ever hear in our lives, you know. Material disease finish. And she did. He said like that, 10 minutes after she left. Went back home, back to Gotham, in the presence of the Association of the Devotees. As the result of a life of dedication to Prabhupada. But that's what is being talked about. That's the heart. The knot in the heart is pierced, finish, dissolve. This attachment to the material way of living, gone. And the chain of fruitive actions, which is binding us to this material world, is terminated. Ananda Vardhana Prabhu, tell us.
Prabhuji, I got a question. In the translation, the last line, it says the chain of fruitive action is terminated when one sees the self as master. So the last part, when one sees the self as master.
Yeah, it is a trick. It's a someone one may think that is like yeah, what does it mean, right? One sees the self as master can be interpreted in different ways, and I believe actually in the edits they actually translated this. 1 second, give me just 1 second, because there is a latest translation, and I particularly liked it. Some devotees were not so happy, but I thought it was very, very nice. 1 second. And you can see if you think it's better or not. Okay, so Prabhupada's books sometimes they have been made some corrections because of the transcriptions that were done, and despite the other devotees who are not in favor of this, but the devotees who are doing this work, they are doing a marvelous work, and they're making it easier. So this is the latest translation, okay, in the latest version of the Veda base. It says, "Thus the knot in the heart is pierced, and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees one's self and one's master." Is it clearer? Yeah. Much clearer,
Yes,
isn't it?
it's clear now.
It's clear. Yeah?
Yes, yes.
So, yeah, one sees the soul and the super soul and Krishna. This is the master, and I see my soul in the sense I'm no longer identifying with the upadis, the false ego. I'm no longer this body. Now I am Krishna's servant. And I am guiding my life according to that identity. I'm no longer identifying as anything else but just Krishna's servant. Okay, clear. Murli Govind, no, Prema Manjari Mati, you were before.
I have a question, if I may ask, regarding the progress through these different stages.
Yeah.
When you were speaking about Nishta, so Nishta is like a really important stage when one becomes steady, and it's he's not so much burdened with all the anarthas. But my question here is still, you were mentioning there could be some bumps still, and that real taste has not come yet because it only comes at Ruchi. So my question is
sorry, repeat that last sentence.
That the real taste has not come yet because it comes at Ruchi, right?
Well, this is one thing that we also need to understand, is that the 9 stages of Bhakti is not like that you leave anartha nivriti at this point, and at this precise point, Nishta begins, and then you finish Nishta at this particular point, and Ruchi begins. It's kind of gradual. So in one sense, you can say that Ruchi is there. We already have some Ruchi to some extent, right? There is some taste, right?
Yeah.
Even at the level of anartha nivriti, we're getting some taste here and there, but it's not permanent. It just fluctuates. It comes. Sometimes we're really fired up. We get like really an amazing experience, and then it fades away. While at the level of Ruchi is permanent. So it's not that Ruchi is not there at the level of Nishta. It is there. Otherwise, why will we be steady? But at the level of Nishta, there's still, it's like what is being described there. Here, there is still impurities in the heart. Like like you were saying, the percentage Prabhupada gave, like 25%, it's almost destroyed, but from time to time we may get some disturbance. While at the level of Ruchi, those disturbances are less. At the level of Ashakti, they are even less. At the level of Bhava, practically none. But even at the level of Bhava, we hear the story of Bharat Maharaj, right? So even at that stage, there may be some problems. In Madhurya Kadambini, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that the effects of aparad, of Nama aparad and Vaishnava aparad, they are felt up to the level of Bhava Bhakti. they're still there, you know? Because I don't know if I'm answering your question. I just wanted to make a clarification. Yeah, is that what you were asking, or you wanted something else?
I had another thing in mind for the question. So I wanted to ask actually, although at Nishta, we are supposed to come like on the top, right? You gave that analogy. We're not going up anymore, but like it's become easier than before. But still, we can see that devotees can fall from any, from any stage. So also from Nishta, one can, instead of progressing, one can also go down. So my question is, except for the offenses, I know about offenses that are the major danger, but besides the offenses, what are the obstacles or the things that are really dangerous and at that particular stage? And on the other side, what are really the essential things that will help such a devotee move progressively forward, that he will not stagnate or go down?
My understanding is that the main problem is offenses.
Okay.
That's the main problem. And particularly at higher levels where there is no material tendency, for example, at the level of a Shakti or the level, or at those higher levels, the soul is no longer allured by the material energy, but offenses may crippling in some way. But obviously at the level of Nishtala you are asking, at that level, the material tendency is still there. We are not free from the influence of the material energy. So we have to be always cautious. Like Prabhupada was praying to the Lord, please don't let me fall down. He was praying to Krishna like this, right? So we should never trust the material energy, no matter how advanced we are. So practically speaking, we have seen devotees who were doing amazing service for Srila Prabhupada, and obviously they got his mercy. They were doing huge things that many of us won't be able to do in many lifetimes, what they did in a few years, right? But they became negligent of their spiritual practices. So that's a problem also, that you don't stay steady with your practices in Krishna consciousness, and that you also leave room for Maya to step in. As we were describing the different levels of anarthas, when we were reading from this Madhurya Kadambini, and it was one of them that at the end that you may be given facility in Krishna consciousness. It's like at every level there is some kind of form of allurement that comes. It may come in the form of followers, it may come in the form of some respect, some facility, maybe it comes in different ways. So going back to your question, what are the obstacles? Well, I would say, like becoming, offenses is always a danger. Then no matter what level you are, you still have to be vigilant to not let Maya come in and become loose in your spiritual practices, in your sadhana. Because Maya can kick in at that point also. Even though, we may not be so disturbed by these things. You may not be disturbed, but you may entertain that. You may, like if you're in a renounced stage of life, you may be giving advice to a Mataji or something, and you think, well, I'm beyond that, and before you know it, the devotee runs out with that person or something. And we've seen it, it's happened. We're not saying what level that person, but anyway, the point is that the same principle applies to a lower levels. But at that stage, it's easier to resist those things. That's the only thing, it is easier. Is that answering the question?
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you very much.
So one thing is that we should never be negligent of our spiritual practices. We should never be negligent of being respectful to all the devotees and engaging any type of criticism, and we should always be vigilant that, like Prabhupada said, my devotees, they're not sufficiently afraid of Maya, and we have seen amazing devotees, stalwarts who left Krishna consciousness. And for someone who is experiencing Krishna consciousness, you may think, how, how these people left. For someone who is not experiencing Krishna consciousness, may be thinking like, well, yeah, maybe it's not true this then, they left, maybe it's all, but if you're having, but for those who actually leave Krishna consciousness, it means basically they're not coming back. They will come back most of them, they come back after many years, but they go for a long time without coming back, right? So it means that somehow, I don't know how to, I'm kind of giving my own understanding. I could be wrong, but it's like, the internal energy, when we are in Krishna consciousness, we're getting the mercy, we're somehow under the protection of the internal energy. But, we turn our backs to Krishna, that internal energy just kind of disappears. And then the whole material existence makes sense again. Well, for now, for us in Krishna consciousness, material existence just doesn't make sense. Why would you want to do that, right? But when you live Krishna consciousness, all of a sudden it just makes sense again, and and endeavoring for material sense gratification and everything. And it's like, it makes you wonder how can someone have that kind of change, right, of perspective in life. So anyway, I don't know. That's just like something to meditate upon, that we should be very careful. No matter how much we are in what level of conviction we have to be careful of who we associate with, what our practices are, all this, very careful, doesn't take much. Okay. Murli Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandat Pranam. Prabhuji, you have explained about this causes of misfortune, in which one of the title is like Asat Trishna Karke you're told. So yeah. In that, you said that desire for heavenly planets, desire for reaching heavenly planets. So actually, Krishna's devotees, they know that they don't want that kind of attainment. No? Only pure love we wanted actually. So this is in connection with some kind of demigod worshippers. This Asat Trishna of desiring for reaching heavenly planets.
I like the purity of your heart, Murli Govinda Prabhu. It's very endearing. Well, we need to wonder, to ask ourselves, do I really don't want this? Is it true that I don't want, that the devotees don't want to go to the heavenly planets? Is it really true?
Yeah, after hearing all this, after reading these wonderful scriptures, why do I have that desire? We have to go back to home, back Godhead.
Yeah, but the problem is that, when that anartha, that cloud, is still in the heart, we may think that, well, I want to enjoy sense gratification. I am performing my Krishna consciousness with the expectation that my life is going to get better at all levels. And, you know, that I'm going to be promoted to a better situation. I'm going to have, you know, better sense gratification, more refined sense gratification. And Krishna comes to you and say, okay, you know, Murli Govinda Prabhu, you know, I really appreciate your Bhakti Vaibhava course and you're participating in the classes so nicely. So you know what? If you want, you can go to Swarga today, right now. No more sweating, no more knee pain, no more kidney problem. You know, you can enjoy in the you know, in the heavenly gardens with damsels and, you know, more beautiful. You'll if you see them, you'll faint. You know, you can go now. You can just go.
That's again temporary only, na Prabhuji. What pious credits are once expired.
Yeah, so
you have to come back again
it's
in
good.
the form of a.
But yeah, that's good. That's you have that realization, you know, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, but again, this is spoken by some, must be an Acharya, na? This,
This is Bhaktivinoda Thakur.
So some meaning should be there behind this. That's what I wanted to understand.
I'm telling you, the meaning is very straightforward. It's not obscure. It's a very clear meaning. The point is that as far as there is any type of expectation of achieving this, wanting to have this, we are not able to experience the full nectar of Krishna consciousness. And that comes in the form of Asat Trishna, literally means like thirst for the temporary. That's the literal meaning, thirst for the temporary. We still want, you know, material comforts. And in some cases, not just material comfort in this life, but, you know, I want to be promoted to heaven. I don't know. I remember hearing this before, but I don't have the quote, and I could be wrong, but I remember hearing this before, that Prabhupada had said that many of my disciples, they actually want to go to heavenly planets. You know? Because you can tell by the lifestyle of a devotee. What do they want? You know? So it's not that all of us, if we want Krishna Prema, really, you know, Krishna, why we don't have it? All these things are still there, you know, Krishna wants to give it to us. And then some other people, they may be aspiring for mystic powers. Some other people may be aspiring for freedom from distress, from liberation. And all of us, to some degree, we may have this Asat Krishna in the heart, in some form or another. Okay? So this is an artha. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur compares to like a cloud. You know, when the cloud is between you and the sun, you cannot experience the full radiance of the sun. Okay? So similarly, when we are still, you know, secretly aspiring for material happiness, we cannot experience the full joy of Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Is it clear or no?
Yes, Prabhu, I agree with you. Prabhuji, that one more thing, like on that ruchi, tasting in the holy name or form or pastimes, anything. Like I heard one from one senior Vaishnava in a lecture that he was asking about, one devotee asked about the how do I measure that I have taste for the holy name. Then he said that after chanting the 16 rounds of the regulated minimum rounds prescribed by our His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, if you are eager to chant more from then onwards, that is the barometer for the real taste.
Yeah, I mean, you see, the thing is that it's not just the one thing. It's not like I finish my rounds and I want to chant more rounds that I'm on the platform of Ruchi. It also will involve that, and I'm not contradicting this devotee. What this devotee is saying is correct. In fact, there is a morning walk with Prabhupada where Brahmananda Prabhu is asking Prabhupada a similar question where, about the quality of the chanting, and he says, Prabhupada answer is, well, why only 16 rounds? Why not 16,000 rounds? And that's the platform of Ruchi, well, 16 rounds is not enough. It's not that I'm going to chant a few more because I'm fired up today, but I just, I don't want to stop chanting, But, the level of Ruchi is expected that that person is not going to have any material attraction, It's not that just I want to chant a few extra rounds. Many of us, we finish the 16th round and sometimes it's like hard to stop. If you have fixed your mind on chanting, you would like to chant a few more. And then it's time to do something else. Doesn't necessarily mean that you're a platform of Ruchi. Yeah. Clear? So I'm not contradicting what this devotee is saying. It's correct. Okay. I'm just saying that there is other considerations also. But Prabhupada said like that, 16, why 16,000? Why not 16 million? We'll bring that morning walk. It's very nice. Okay, it's 5 o'clock. I somehow always make the mistake that I think it's 5:30 the class. Today happened the same thing as the last Saturday, but I just clicked. So anyway, we completed this. Let's just go to the 1 second to the PowerPoint for a second. And okay, so yeah, we completed the analysis of these progressive stages of Bhakti. So I just finished with this. So Tashadadana Munayo Shada Syam Mahat Sevaya Vipra, text 16, Sadhu Sangha, Shimvata Swakata Krishna, Bhajana Kriya, Abhadrani Vidunoti Surit Satang. Okay, Anartha Nivriti is actually 17 and 18, okay? Because Nasta Prayesho Avadesu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya. Bhakti Bhavati Nashtiki, or say Bhakti Bhavati Nashtiki is Nishta in verse 18. And okay, Simvata Sukata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridientastohya Vadrani Vidunati Surit Satan. Okay, 17 and Artha Nivriti. It goes through also 18, but 18 includes also the platform of Nishna. Then 19 is Stitan Sattva Prasidatis, Ruchis, and Asakti. And then, 20 is 20 is Prasanna Manaso, Bhava Bhakti. The mind becomes free from, gains positive scientific knowledge of the Lord in a stage of liberation from material association. Bhagavat Tattva Vigyanan. That's also verse 20. Bhava and Prema in verse 20. Okay, so that completes the analysis. Now there is another verse given by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which gives 14 steps: mercy of the devotees, service to the devotees, faith, surrender to Guru, desire for worship, bhakti, clearance of anarthas, nista, ruchi, asakti, rati, prema, seeing the Lord and experiencing the Lord's with you. So it's more detailed. Some of the verses include a few of the stages. We don't need to go through that. Okay, so what I would like you to do as homework, okay, for tomorrow, and what I'm gonna do is you're gonna do all of them because this is very important, and it's so I would like you to write. You have two sets of group of verses. Make sure you take note of this, verses 6 to 13 and then 13 to 22, okay? So I want you to choose particular points from these verses which are useful for preaching, okay? And you may find some that appear to be contradictory to popular contemporary thought or values or opinions, right? So if that's the case, when you come across with some of these principles, you have to tell us explain how you will present it in a way which is appealing. Clear? For example, one principle is that by rendering service to the devotees, one gains affinity from hearing the messages of Vasudeva. Okay, one gains affinity from hearing about Krishna. So that's a principle. How you explain it. So I want you to. This shouldn't take you long because I've spent so much time in the class with this. So you should have already, you just make a list of like 5, 10, 15 principles and bring them tomorrow. We'll start the class tomorrow with that. All right. And then personal application also for verses 6 to 13 and 14 to 22, exactly the same divisions. Again, select guidelines that are important for personal application. Okay, so one of them is for preaching to other people, and the other one is for your own practice of Krishna consciousness. Okay, and Hare Krishna. Thank you very much for your kind attention. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhuvyaivacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna. I'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock Indian time. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam, Guruji.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Dhanava Pranam.